Hello, everyone from the democratic world who seeks for the liberty of the human rights and individuals, the liberty and the freedom of all individual beings. Here I speak out from Seoul, Korea, South Korea again. I am a psychiatrist, and I also have a doctor's degree in microbiology. So, summing up, the psychiatry and microbiology, and also I could be involved in the sociology and the mass psychology, and even the propaganda. Why and where it went wrong about the quarantine. We have K-pops and K-culture and K-dramas. They are so famous. You have 방탄소년단, BTS all over in the Billboard charts. But what about Korean quarantine? The K-brand quarantine. Are they doing well, or are they doing the worst thing in the world? There is such much problems about that because it goes not too far away ago, but about the year 2017, when Moon Jae-in regime came to power by some kind of a plot and removed President Park Geun-hye. Moon Jae-in is a leftist, not quite really a pure leftist, which you call in the Europe, such as France or England, because the British Labour Party is different from the Labour Party of the Soviet Union. Do you know that, right? British Union Party is not same as the North Korea's Union Party, isn't it? 노동당. We call it 노동당. We call it 영국 노동당, British Labour Party. There is much different problems between diversity of the nations and countries of the world, and currently the world power after which was rearranged after the Cold War ended and USSR, the Soviet Union, was flattered away. There became a new power, so-called themselves by G2, the China. The China's influence to South Korea is very great. We call it a continent power. A continent power which involves Russia, China, and Korean Peninsula. The ocean power, which we call including the United States and Japan and Taiwan. To Taiwan, the Republic of China. That made such a great problem that until now, Korea was a great alliance to the United States and its affiliates, even though Japanese occupied Korea with force, and they did many bad things to Koreans. Now the common enemy of this so-called Western and the development countries' power in the North East Asia is now South Korea and Japan and the United States, and also the Pacific power includes Australia and New Zealand. So that South Korea had to choose between the two powers. I mean that you should go to the continent, or you should abide by the powers that the U.S. gave to Korea, South Korea. South Korea is a very developed nation. It is a seventh economic giant in this world. I'm sorry for the Italian people, the people from Mussolini. I'm I feel sorry for them to say, and even to Spain, but Spain is not included in G7, so they are excused. But Italia is much weaker, and their economy and other all kind of infrastructures and superstructures is inferior to South Korea. So that means that Italia should come down, and South Korea should be included in G7. I'm sorry for the Italian people, but I have to say that. There was a great chance, and it was a tremendous growth, development power that South Korea was expected to acquire in the late 2010s. And that all the powers struggle, the power balance suddenly collapsed, changed. It became a kind of a waste by the Moon Jae-in's regime when he shook hands, not to shook hands, he hugged. He fused South Korea with communist, CCP, China, Xi Jinping's administration. By doing that, South Korea wasted every momentum and every structure and every alignment and everything that it had acquired and accumulated for over 70 years with the United States, the Great Alliance. Not like Philippines or Hawaii or the Indians, American native Indians, Aborigines, and in the North American continent. Korean people were not suffered by the United States people. They especially loved Koreans. They also sacrificed lives, over 39,000 killed in action, just killed in action, and more than 50,000 dead in the Korean War. And what did they get from that? What did the United States take from that? United States did not dislike Korea, and that's a very, very, very important point. Because what I think of it is, it's because we have the same, mainly the same religion, the same faith towards God, towards Jesus. So that meant a great thing. And that the United States was helping South Korea for over many decades, till 1990. And that helped Korea grow. But as a fact, United States did not give money or much of the techniques or technologies that United States gave to the Germany or Japan after the ending of the Second World War, which United States is afraid that the Germans and the Japans will retaliate. What I always say is that the miracle of Hangang, the great river flowing between the Seoul, capital city of Seoul, we call it a miracle of Hangang, 한강의 기적. And there is a miracle of Germany and miracle of Tokyo, that both countries after the war, everything was devastated. They grew up to become the most competent countries of the world, being the first and second, third, like that. Korea didn't get much as money support or those kinds of technology support. United States wanted Korea to remain as a farming country, a farming agriculture country after the Korean War. But President Park Chung-hee pressed on. He did not have much money, but he made money by many kinds of efforts, real effort, a little bit of money it grew to become a great foundation, and it made the foundation of the current seventh economic greatest country in the whole world today. It is the miracle of Hangang. Thus, the other presidents after the descendants of Park Chung-hee did something, but the main foundation was made by President Park Chung-hee. That Korea could grow into a great military nation and great economic nation, and with such much technologies in construction and in electricity and in producing, especially the semiconductors and digital products, including Samsung or LG's electronics, and now the computers and those most major companies that produce cars and motor vehicles and all those kind of things. So Korea has grown up to have the potential to be one of the greatest nation in the whole world, the whole global world. It had a great chance in the 2010s till leftist President Roh Moo-hyun and this Moon Jae-in regime began to kind of disarray, kind of confuse, kind of a disrupting, even destroying the utmost and perfectly sound infrastructure of South Korea and also superstructures of Korea. What makes me weary is that this government, the Moon Jae-in's government, has only thoughts about how to please the North Korean counterparts, not the North Korean people who are suffering from hunger and lack of medicine, lack of housing, lack of water, lack of electricity, and lack of freedom especially. And they're going to their concentration camps. Not those people who are suffering, but Moon Jae-in's regime is interested and is close. They're close contact with the kingdom, dynasty of Kim Il-sung and Kim Jong-un, the prince, and the princess, Kim Yo-jong, so much that they are not interested in the domestic problems currently happening in South Korea, but they're more concerned about the nomenclature, the oligarchy, the main premier class, the North Korean Communist Party people, even though the North Korea claims that they are not a communist nation, they still have the Communist Party, and the Communist Party people, including the Communist Party and their family members, about 2.0 million of the population, a total of 22 million. About 1/10 are the main architecture of a kind of a superior group in economic and every influence. They think only about those people's wealth and their happiness. So this is not a country. Other people in North Korea is a servant. They are what you call a kind of slave. So what South Korea should do is to save the normal people, the servants, the slaves of the North Korea, and it is not to negotiate and help the superior, the nomenclature class of the North Korea. It is not for the leftists to do, because the leftist means that leftist people's agenda means that they are inclined to help the people with little power and the poor people more than the rich and influential power, right? So Korea's leftists should help the North Korean peoples who are suffering, not the North Korean Kim Jong-un's regime. But they're doing that until now, and that the more dangerous decision was that trying to negotiate with North Korea and China to weaken the South Korea's ability and power and its influence in the world community, the foreign community, and the diplomacy of the world. So Moon Jae-in's regime is attached firmly to China's Xi Jinping's administration. They call themselves they call themselves the community of same destiny. And they call North Korea, Moon Jae-in's regime called North Korea, the community of the same life. 생명 공동체. Same life, 생명 공동체 with North Korea, and the community of the same destiny. 운명 공동체 with Xi Jinping's China. And they dream the same dream, the China, great Chinese dream. They speak out that very blatantly. They did, and it's all in the news. So that might not in the President Obama's regime, but in Donald Trump's regime, such South Korea's attitude was very irritating and unpleasant situation and thing for President Trump and the United States citizens to accept the truth that South Korea had betrayed the United States and gone over to the Xi Jinping's communist China. Why are they doing that? It's because they are trying to make a kind of an alliance between China, North Korea, and South Korea, and as a continental power, superpower. And they think that it is possible, but as the history shows, and the history will show, it will never be possible, because you already saw the aftermath and the problems that the Communist Party of China is being challenged all over the world. It is a smart thing to be in a wolf pack or in the part of alliance who is winning. It's a bandwagon effect. You should be in the part of the winning. Maybe you could, if you are an individual, you may sacrifice for your friend or your neighbor or some people you even never have known. It is a righteous thing for a person to sacrifice your life for somebody else. But a country, a nation, cannot sacrifice the nation's life to other nation so easily, isn't it? Am I not right? Do you want your country to sacrifice your country and give up to another country? Greece to Turkey and Turkey to Greece? Or maybe Portugal to Spain, Netherlands to Spain again? You don't want it, right? So it is impossible, but this Moon Jae-in's regime is trying to do that. It's kind of strange and kind of odd, and it's kind of crazy. The first main reason that Korea had a tremendous thing of the 2019 COVID-19 CCP-1 virus outbreak was due to the fact that the South Korea's Moon Jae-in's regime was secretly, clandestinely progressing the One Road, One Belt, OBOR policy in South Korea. And people never know because South Korea is officially not a OBOR related nation. But it is in the progress that so much Chinese people are in South Korea and they get such much privilege than other people from Vietnam or Cambodia or even the United States. The Chinese people who came to South Korea gets the most privilege, got the most privilege by the Moon Jae-in's regime, so that they stay there. They came in even when the COVID-1 outburst was in the utmost outbreak, that we could not block the Chinese from coming in. But we had about 18,000 kits from Roshu to diagnose SARS virus. President Park Geun-hye prepared the South Korea's President Park Geun-hye prepared such a diagnostic kit after when the outburst of SARS from Singapore and the MERS from Middle East was a problem in South Korea. She was being ready for the next outbreak, and she even constituted a P4 BSL4 level biology laboratory in Osong, South Korea. South Korea also has the P4 level biology laboratory officially in Korea. But moments just after the great outbreak from Wuhan, South Korea people suffered from lack of masks. There were a lot of masks in South Korea, but it was all gone. It's not only the South Korea had experienced such comedy like problems. In the United States and also India or other lot of countries, masks were all taken over to the China, and they sold it back. So the South Korean people had to wait in lines to buy the masks, like in the Soviet Union type. So first, we thought that it was the Moon Jae-in's regime is trying to train us to adapt to the kind of a communist planned economic style distribution and rationing system, like ration system while in the wartime, you have to stand in lines for your turn to get food, bread, and even vodka and everything. Koreans were trained now to wait in lines to get one or two piece of them. And then what became more worse is that when every nation was busy making its policy about a coronavirus outbreak and epidemic problems and the vaccinations, all kinds of sanitary sanction and other things. South Korea's health and epidemic administration was just an official one, and they were just repeatedly, like a parrot, repeatedly told people with. They communicated with us by just numbers. You know that, just by numbers. Numbers they announce how much people are got infected, or how much people are should be isolated. And we do not know correctly what that number means, and that number is even is based on the science itself, or the epidemiologic research itself. And meanwhile, the Moon Jae-in's regime is not really interested or concerned about this coronavirus matters, because it's not a great dangerous matter in South Korea when you look up into a scientific basis. But the government is insisting it is still dangerous, and it is increasing, even though the death toll or the problems are diminishing. And they are concentrating on pleasing North Korea's Kim Yo-jong and Xi Jinping and Wang Yi, the minister of diplomacy of China, Communist China. They are only concerned in that political matters, and they are afraid that if they are discharged from the office, just after being charged off, they would be punished, because they made so much blunders and so much mistakes, and even so much greedy and intent felonies that we can easily observe and watch, and we have such evidences about that. There is so much evidence of a kind of a mismanagement of the government and the country. Still today, the Moon Jae-in regime is only concerned about the North Korea's mood, their effect, not the happiness or the well-being of the South Korean citizens. I can track down this by looking into a recent past in 2019 when United States Secretary of State Michael Pompeo was expected to visit Tokyo and then to Seoul in regards of the QUAD Quad alignment. Extraordinary thing happened that Mike Pompeo visited Japan and consecutively was to visit South Korea, Seoul, but it was cancelled. But what I see, it was rejected, and rejected not by Moon Jae-in, but by Xi Jinping himself. That if you let Mike Pompeo come into Seoul, you'll see to that. So South Korea couldn't let Mike Pompeo into Seoul, and that raised the President Donald Trump at that time that South Korea is no more our ally. They are Chinese allies. Since then, South Korea was excluded from Quad. To be honest, some people, even the specialists, even the press, do not recognize that South Korea was already in the Quad 7. They forgot that South Korea was in the Quad 7 while in Park Geun-hye's president's regime. It has I have the evidence in the United States Heritage Foundation homepage that until about April of 2019, United States was working with Korea in Quad for the part of a research and the vaccine development and other things. But after the Pompeo's visit was in September, and Korea was cast out from that. And after that, the United States, the new President Biden asked for Korea to rejoin the Quad, but Korea is continuously refusing, making an excuse that China's Xi Jinping does not like this. That means that causes a very serious problem, because Quad, you know that WHO in the while in the outburst of Wuhan coronavirus pandemic was influenced greatly by the Chinese CCP communists, right? You remember that, huh? So the Western community had to have a new form of a World Health community. So they included that to the Quad Plus, Quad 7. So Korea was in that Quad 7. While in the Quad 7, Korea could have had a happy gay days with the United States, but South Korea was bullied by Chinese Communist Party and could not speak out its own language. The weak point is the weak point in the Quad system is Quad Plus system is that it is a kind of a military alliance in the eastern part of Asia and Pacific, right? Just like the NATO in the European part of the world. So South Korea participating in Quad 7 again should mean a kind of a declaration of war to the Communist China. So it was not the problem is The problems of the military alliance in the Pacifics and the Northeast Asia is also important, but the most important part was that of a joint collaboration between the Western countries and South Korea in controlling the pan-epidemic SARS-2 COVID-19 virus. And its experiences and its vaccines and its technologies should be shared together. But as South Korea refused to rejoin the Quad QUAD system, factually, the Moon Jae-in's regime is not talking about this. Moon Jae-in's regime is not talking about this, but South Korea's pandemic, SARS-2 COVID pandemic strategies should be only dependent on the Chinese Communist Party's strategies and their announcements and their calculations and so depending on the statistics that the Chinese government gives South Korea, it became very dangerous for our citizens to rely on the broadcasts or the statements or the announcements of South Korea's Moon Jae-in's regime's announcement. And more, the problem was that South Korea refused to intermingle with the Quad Plus alliance. There will be no more support from the United States and Britain or other countries because Quad consists of United States, Australia, Japan, and India, and plus Quad Plus consists of Korea and Vietnam and New Zealand, and that New Zealand is a part of the Five Eyes, right? The Five Eyes of Australia, New Zealand, and the Great Britain and United States, and so on. United States and the British actually intended to include Korea and Japan even into the Five Eyes and making it a Seven Eyes. So that South Korea had a kind of a possibility and the potential to join the Quad and the Five Eyes and the G7, and that means that South Korea in 2019 was to become one of the greatest countries, nations in the whole world. About UN's 250, 60 countries. The seventh great country would be Korea, and that the military power and the economic powers and the industrial everything means that South Korea would be not a little dragon but a great superpower if it is allied with Japan and United States and Australia and New Zealand in the Pacific area. But Moon Jae-in's regime kicked the bucket. Why? He has some intentions. It's not a blunder. It's planned. So we should be very cautious about this matter. And I'm being cautious and speaking, even in speaking about this matter, it's very dangerous. That's why, because the Korea very clearly took side with Communist CCP China Xi Jinping's administration, that means that South Korea will not and cannot get the support or the help from the Western world anymore. So it's so isolated. It isolated itself. So the vaccines cannot arrive in time. The Moon Jae-in regime's announcements about the vaccine supply cannot be always true and was not always true. Not always true, it was always wrong. So the vaccination problem is not in order now. It's not continuing. It's being off and on, off and on, and off and on. And nothing is ever concluded and established at all. But still, South Korea is very safe from the Wuhan COVID-19 virus. But we have to be ready for the next blow from China. They are might try to make another. They're in the influenza virus, not corona. So we have to be very ready for that. But I think that the Korean Moon Jae-in's regime and health administration is never ready for this, because they are frantically concentrated only in the matters with North Korea's Kim Il-sung dynasty and the CCP, Communist China's Xi Jinping. So my perspectives about the South Korea's vaccination and epidemic problems will go on and on and on. And what I fear most is that they are using this as a political, political tool, instrument to control people from resisting or making voice out against the current Moon Jae-in's regime. And they are very meticulously and very cunningly planning all kinds of plans to block people from gathering or announcing anti-government propaganda currently in South Korea. So even my today's broadcast is made in English, not in Korean, and it just looks like a South Korean, Korean quarantine problems. But I need to send you this message out to the whole world. That South Korea is suffering. South Korean people are suffering in such an psychiatric propaganda by the fear-forming propaganda by the Moon Jae-in's regime to maintain their power even after the next presidential election. And because if their regime, Moon Jae-in's regime, falls in 2022, there will be so much scandals and problems and too much people to punish that they fear of the regime change, and they are suppressing and oppressing our common people every day, every morning, every night, and every time, every second. This was Dr. Choi Sunghwan from Seoul, Korea. See you in the recent future. Again, I'll give you news about South Korea's current status. Thank you very much.